I got another Tip Tuesday video for you guys today, and in this video we're going to talk all about rounds per hour and just how important it is to kind of know the rounds per hour. And in this video we're going to start off kind of with some of the simple logic behind rounds per hour, but towards the end we're going to progress into some of the more nuances and some of the complicated ideas behind playing at a faster or maybe even a slower table and the pros and cons to that. All right, so with that said, we're not going to actually do it on my table here. I'm going to jump over to the Blackjack Apprenticeship Pro Betting software because they have dialed it in so you can see exactly what your rounds per hour are going to do to both your EV, your risk of ruin, and some things like that. Let's check it out. All right, so here we are in the Blackjack Apprenticeship Pro Betting software, as you can see on the side here. And I am a member of Blackjack Apprenticeship. They're actually a sponsor of this video. We'll get to that in a second, maybe towards the end of this video actually. But first off, I want to show you that if we just have a $15,000 bankroll, that's what we're going to be starting out with here. And I just plugged in a few numbers, and we're going to be changing a few of these to see, like I said, what will the rounds per hour, what is this going to do to both of our EV as well as our risk of ruin, and how can we manipulate that a little bit to get the best possible expected value out of it. And maybe are there times where we would want to play a slower game or a faster game or things like that. So if you notice kind of just these first initial settings that I have here, we have $15,000. Currently, the rounds per hour, this is actually dictated by, you can see I have the rounds per hour estimation at the top here. It's dictated by the number of players and the table speed. So have you ever been to like a table before where it just seems incredibly slow? The dealer is maybe unfortunately an elderly person, and they just are so slow at dealing out those cards, and it's a little bit rough. Maybe that's the first day on the job. And so over here you can actually change this to be slow, average, or fast. So let's do this. Let's change it, but before we do, notice it's just a little bit above $10 an hour right now, which is terrible, but we need to fix a few of these variables and we can try to get this expected value up. All right, so let's call this a very slow dealer. And if I toggle this off and back on, you'll notice that our expected value dropped. Okay, so kind of rule of thumb is that the slower, and also changed our rounds per hour there, but the kind of rule of thumb is that the slower the table is, the less money you're going to make. And that just makes sense, right? As we're playing with an edge, we want to get more rounds at with the advantage, and that will obviously multiply and increase our expected value, and in turn will make us more money. Okay, so there's a few other things that can also change the rounds per hour, and that is the number of players that are at the table. So if you look at what's happening here, this is heads up, that's just one. So this 2 is going to include you and one other person. That's what you'll need to have, at least one other person there if you ever want to wong out, meaning that at the negative counts you are going to step away from the table, or maybe you're sitting there behind the table counting, and when the count gets up to a certain amount, then you jump in. Well, there obviously has to be other people at the table playing for you to do that. If it's just the dealer sitting there with the cards saying, "You want to play?" As you walk by, well, no one's playing those rounds, so you can't jump in, and the account isn't moving at that point. Okay, so this accounts for both you and the other people at the table there. All right, let's start off here with, instead of 4, let's take it to 5. And you'll notice that now our rounds per hour, or not rounds per hour, our expected value went even lower at $6.09 per hour, which again is just awful. Okay, so let's say that it is just 2. It's you and one other person. Here our expected value is going to go up as we could get more rounds in for us as we are playing with an edge. Okay, and that also changed it to be 100 rounds per hour. Now, that's also at a slow table still. We can change this to be maybe an average table. It's what I usually leave it at, because I never know before I get somewhere. Usually I don't know. You can do some scouting and things like that, but if you don't know, maybe just keep this at average. Again, toggle this off and back on, and it went from 100 to 129, and your expected value also increased. Okay, one other thing you might notice is that this is increasing almost exponentially as the rounds per hour increase. In fact, if I just do this manually, so I'm going to put in like 150 rounds per hour. And you can see that now it jumped way up to almost $18, right? Or if it was a super fast dealer, maybe 200, and now it's at 23. So it seems like the faster the dealer is, this almost goes up exponentially. It's kind of a curve as opposed to a line or a linear progression there. All right, let's see, what else could we do? What about over here? This is going to be, you know, if we were playing heads up, I've heard it said that so obviously we'd have to play all the negative counts since it's just us. We can always walk away, I suppose, at a certain point. But I'm going to change this last one to be just 1. And there, let's see, so a couple of these would be the same. It's a little bit redundant. Let's call this maybe 15 now. But there, this just playing 1 hand, that's going to be faster than playing 2 hands. Okay, now our expected value went way down because at 2, if this was 40 times 2, that's like $80 on the table at that point. And so our expected value would go up. So you might have to adjust these numbers. In fact, I'll do that really quick for us. We'll call this 20. All right, so now you'll notice that our expected value went even higher as, again, just playing 1 hand each. Now these numbers are slightly different, but just playing 1 hand each is going to be a lot faster than you trying to play 2 hands if you're just heads up with the dealer. So that's another thing that could really change the amount of rounds per hour that you get. All right, let's go back to their rounds per hour that they have in here. I'm going to say we have a really fast dealer. So I'm going to toggle this off and back on. I think does that change our, no, it doesn't. If a fast dealer, this is going to be like 290 if it was just you, which almost 300 rounds per hour, that is cooking, all right? But now our expected value is up to 45. Remember we started at like what, $10 an hour or lower? So if you just were able to find a table by yourself with a very fast dealer, with a bet spread where you are not spreading to 2 hands, but you're just going with 1 the whole time, maybe adjusting your numbers accordingly, that could yield you higher rounds per hour and therefore a more expected value. All right, your risk of ruin in each of this is also going to be slightly different. If I take this down a little bit, instead of 290, let's say we have an average dealer. Let's go like that. You can see that our risk of ruin actually is right about the same. And that's largely because this software doesn't know if you are getting some positive or negative variance in those situations. And so this accounts for, it's kind of based off of the different numbers like your N0 and standard deviation and things like that. So the risk of ruin isn't going to change a whole lot based off of the table speed. Now, it could, if we have a real slow dealer, let's see if this maybe affects it. Yeah, not really. So it's still at 3, before it was at 2.99. So that's not going to be a big factor there. It's more the expected value, which is the dollars per hour that's going to change. All right, so that is kind of what you're looking for. Sort of rule of thumb is you want a fast table with as minimal players as possible. That's also going to be easier to count, by the way, as it's just you, or maybe you and 1 other person or something like that. All right. So look how much of a difference it is if it's just you versus if 1 other person is there. Jumps down to 16. So it's almost like cutting it in half, which kind of makes sense as you only get half of those cards. All right. Now, like I said, this video is brought to you by BlackjackApprenticeship.com. Thanks to Colin Jones and his team over there. I've been talking with them a little bit, and they are kind enough to sponsor a couple months of videos for me on these Tip Tuesday and some of my other Tuesday videos. So I'm going to kind of walk you through a few things that you would get with Blackjack Apprenticeship. Obviously, our pro betting software here. This is essential. Notice that every little change in how it was played, right, just by a heads up versus 1 other person at the table is going to be a significant difference in your expected value. And you absolutely need to be keeping track of that. All right. So I would highly recommend that you get some sort of betting software. And personally, I like Blackjack Apprenticeship as you can use this on the go. It works very well on your phone as well. Okay, so that's the pro betting software. You need that to keep track of your records. There's also the forum. They said I am not really allowed to click on this, as this is sort of people's private conversations that they have as members. So we're going to leave that for you to see once you join. And let's see what else. There's some things that kind of go along with the forum. People can message you. That's really cool if you're on a team or you're trying to become a member of someone else's team. The video course. This is where you probably would start when you first get a membership. So let's see if my internet will load this here. There we go. You can see I did the whole course. I'm 100% completed with it. It has everything from card counting concepts to understanding the game, basic strategy, card counting, the deviations, and then it gets into some of the more higher level stuff like bankroll management. There's a bunch of videos on that, and then beyond the basics. And then lastly, we have some trips and how to deal with the casino themselves. So lots and lots of videos there. Excellent resource. Again, you probably want to start there. All right, I'm going to go back to their main page. There is Casino 411. There's a results tracker as well. I'm not going to show you this because this has my personal information on there as far as my wins and losses. And so I like to kind of keep that private. Casino 411, let's just search Vegas here. Let's go off the strip or other. Sometimes you've probably heard that the strip isn't that great of a place to play unless you have a really big bankroll. You can afford the big minimums at the tables that actually do have the 3-2. But here's some alternatives here. We have like the Alamo, for example, and it has $5. Wow, $5 double deck. That is excellent. So notice it shows you the min to max there, and to double deck, it's 1 for the pen. That means they cut off 1 deck, and it shows kind of these other ones as well. Here's double deck with 15. That's a little bit more common. 0.75, so I would probably lean towards playing this game as opposed to that one, especially with the higher max bets there. But again, it really depends on your bankroll size and some things like that. So this is a great thing to check out. It has all the states. You can check out whatever state you're in and maybe some of the surrounding areas. All right, results tracker, like I said, I'm not going to show you that. Casino 411 has their podcasts on here. And then the training suite. I spend probably the most time looking at the training suite now that I've gone through the whole video course. And it has running count, true count, basic strategy, and deviations are all things that you can test yourself on. For example, let's try a deviation or two here. So this is H17, expanded, no expanded, all right? So for example, this is a pair of 10s versus dealers 5. Of course, we're going to split those at a true plus 5. And it tells you that you are correct, right? And then it will give you another one and so on. All right, let's get out of this now. And what I like best is the test outs, all right? You can set your dealer speed. You can get all the types of rules that your particular game has. And then when you go to test out, you can play a few hands. I have a ghost hand on here as well. And it will tell you if you're right or wrong. So for example, I'm going to play a hand wrong. This is a 12 versus a 10. Of course, we should hit this, but I'm going to say we're going to stand, and it tells you that you were wrong, all right? So we'll dismiss that. And then since I stood, it doesn't give me another card. You have to come up with the count, and every so often it asks for the count, depending on what you inputted there for how you want to train. There's also some charts and things. If I go back to the main page there, as well as the member forum, the charts have included with expanded deviations. So if you are a fan of my Instagram page, that's where I get some of my numbers from that some of you always seem to kind of question where I'm getting those. Well, it's straight from Blackjack Apprenticeship, so you know that it is correct. All right, again, I would highly encourage you to get a Blackjack Apprenticeship membership if you are interested. The link to become a member is going to be in the pinned comment of this video. So go ahead and check that out. And even if you aren't going to buy, if you don't have the money for that right now, I think that's smart to save up and wait. All right, but go check out the link anyway. There's some videos that Colin and his team have put together that highlight some of these different aspects, and maybe probably a little bit of a better way than I do, as they have a whole team behind them that has the resources for that. So I would encourage you, again, go ahead and click on that link in the pinned comment of this video. Check out the videos that describe exactly the features you're going to get when you become a Blackjack Apprenticeship member. All right, guys, thank you for watching this. And remember, this is A1 Blackjack.